Most people assume men want one thing in a partner: loyalty. It makes sense. Loyalty means your children are, well, your children. And yeah, that instinct runs deep. Men value loyalty. But evolution never promised consistency, because the very same men who value loyalty often pursue one-night stands with women they'd never marry. It sounds contradictory because it is. We tend to think beauty should solve this problem, like if a man marries someone stunning, he should be satisfied. Goal achieved, desire fulfilled, end of story. Except it isn't. Even men with the most beautiful partners, billionaires, celebrities, the genetically blessed, still cheat. And often not with upgrades, but with women who seem objectively less. Are they out of their minds? Yes, with minds built in the Stone Age. Back then, our ancestors were hunting mammoths and trying not to get eaten by saber-toothed tigers. For them, life boiled down to two goals: don't die and make babies. If you were still breathing, the next mission was reproduction, and not with just anyone, but with the best partner your genes could get. With the right partner, the genes you pass on don't just survive, they improve. That simple logic shaped one of humanity's oldest instincts, the preference for beauty. Beauty isn't some social construct, it's a biological signal. It's biology signaling these genes are worth copying. And one of the clearest signs was skin. Smooth, even skin meant no parasites, no infections, and an immune system doing exactly what it should. In a world without antibiotics, that was priceless information. Back then, if you managed to stay clean, you were basically a Victoria's Secret model. Unless your face leaned a bit too masculine, because the next signal was estrogen. Estrogen shapes the way pretty women look: smaller jaw, larger eyes, thicker lips. You see that face today and feel attraction. Not because society told you to, but because your DNA remembers what worked. 2 eyebrows, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and a mouth. That's how humans look. So symmetry is another signal. Symmetry means order survived chaos. Cells divided, copied, and didn't lose their place. If the left doesn't match the right, something went wrong. Parasites, mutation, bad luck, doesn't matter. Your brain just marks it as off, because order meant health. Health meant survival. And survival meant you. So your brain still rewards order, still calls it beautiful, still thinks symmetry is love. You may wonder how humans got this kind of preference. It's the same way giraffes got their long necks. Once upon a time, some giraffes had slightly longer necks than others. Longer necks meant more leaves. More leaves meant more survival. More survival meant more babies. Repeat that for a few million years, and those tiny advantages add up, and you get the giraffe we know today. That's natural selection. All right, so long necks are for survival. But then there's the peacock. The peacock's tail is ridiculous. It's impossible to hide, and it burns energy. By all logic, that tail should have gone extinct long ago, and yet every male peacock drags one behind him. Why? Because the predators notice it, and so do peahens. And that's the point. Because what survives isn't always what's fastest or strongest. It's what gets chosen. Those bright feathers send a message. I can afford this nonsense. I'm healthy. I'm here. Over time, beauty itself became a survival strategy. Not because it kept you alive, but because it passed on your genes, even if it kills you a little sooner. That's nature's second rule of evolution: sexual selection. And humans? We still play the same game, just with different feathers. Beyond the preference for beauty we mentioned earlier, humans also favor youth, long legs, and a defined waist-to-hip ratio. For our ancestors, youth meant higher fertility. Long legs signaled good nutrition in childhood and made it easier to run, hunt, or escape predators. And that 0.7 waist-to-hip ratio meant more stored nutrients, fuel for pregnancy, and safer childbirth. Now, combine youth, beauty, long legs, and that 0.7 waist-to-hip ratio, and you get what we now call a supermodel. But beauty draws attention, and with attention comes competition. And when the competition gets crowded, certainty disappears. Now, the challenge isn't predators anymore. It's outcompeting other men. And even if he wins, he can't be sure the next child is actually his. Loyalty then becomes essential. So marriage was invented, but not for love. It was a way for men to secure exclusive access during a woman's reproductive cycle and raise children that were, most likely, their own. But nature never stops patching its own code. To reduce uncertainty, men evolved 2 filters: virginity before marriage as a signal of reliability, and loyalty after marriage as proof of commitment and control. Over time, the first filter changed with economics. In places where women relied on men's resources, chastity stayed valuable, and dependence kept chastity alive. But where women are self-sufficient, that rule just fades and independence erases it. Yet one law never changes: loyalty after marriage. Across every culture, betrayal costs more than beauty, because infidelity doesn't just break hearts, it breaks bloodlines. And even worse, it breaks something else: status. Being betrayed hurts more than the heart, it bruises reputation. In ancient times, that meant weakness. For men, it still does. So evolution built a firewall for men: sexual jealousy, a radar that locks onto any sign of betrayal. It scans for threats, flags deception, and protects genetic investment. In the game of genes, the man who didn't care lost. Over time, nature kept the jealous ones, the ones who guarded their mates, the ones who made sure their investment was theirs. Because if she carries another man's child, every hour, every resource, every effort you give feeds a rival's DNA. Okay, back to our question from the start. A man gets what he wants: beauty and loyalty in one partner. He should be satisfied, right? Of course not. Because this satisfaction isn't meant to last. Desire doesn't end, desire only resets. What was once thrilling becomes familiar, then the search begins again. Evolution wired men to chase quantity because every new partner was another hope for their DNA to live on. This creates two instincts in men: keep what's yours and look for more. The first creates marriage. The second breaks it. For men, short-term mating was a jackpot. Low cost, high return. A few nights of effort could mean dozens of children, because one man can get many women pregnant, but one woman can only carry one baby. That's math. So men run two mating strategies at once: a long-term one that guards loyalty and a short-term one that seeks variety. In short-term mating, the rules flip. To boost their chances, men lower every standard: age, looks, body shape, all become negotiable. The only real requirement is a spark of attraction, just enough to make the night possible. In long-term relationships, men avoid women who are older or more promiscuous. But in short-term encounters, those same traits stop being disqualifiers. Sometimes they even help. When the goal is quick access, modesty becomes a barrier and experience becomes a shortcut. The women least favored for marriage then become the most desired for a night. Commitment follows the same pattern. In long-term mating, men are willing to promise. In the short-term one, they avoid anyone who asks for it. Because when it's just a one-time thing, commitment isn't strategy, it's friction. So if your wife looks like a model, your affair probably won't. Often she's not even attractive, because cheating isn't about finding someone better, it's about variety. At first glance, it might seem like men are the ones who do all the choosing, but biology says otherwise. According to parental investment theory, the sex that invests more in reproduction becomes the chooser, and in most species, that's the female. While human males can produce millions of sperm every hour at almost no cost, human females are born with only about 1 million eggs, most of which will never mature, and only a few hundred will ever have a chance at life. Pregnancy, birth, nursing, all of it happens inside the woman's body. For men, one act might last seconds, but for women, the impact can last a lifetime. That's why, in almost every species, the one who invests more is the one who hesitates more. A bad choice for a woman can mean months wasted or a child that doesn't make it. That also means females are the rare resource, and rare things always create competition. So while men compete for access, women compete by choosing carefully. But there are exceptions. In some species, the males invest more, building nests, bringing food, guarding eggs. When that happens, the roles reverse. Males get picky, and females start fighting for their attention. Seahorse is a perfect example. But the rule doesn't change. The one who invests more gets to choose. The one who invests less has to compete. And that brings us to the next question: how do women choose, and what kind of men survive that competition?